Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of the HNEpod, and again, I am joined by Jackson from Full Circle.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me back, Josh. It was a fun time last time, and I'm ready to talk some more news this week.
Yeah, so today we have on our kind of topic list there, we have the Christian Bale casting, talking about the role he may be playing in the movie. And then also at the same time, we're talking about the Flash movie because we have a new update on that, even if it's rather minor, all things considered. Then the Batman movie, set photos came out for that, or I guess I should say leaked out for that, which it doesn't give a lot, even though we do have a new confirmation for casting, but it does tease something, which may be a part of a grander part of the story for the actual movie. And then last but not least, the New Mutants trailer came out, so we're going to talk about that since, my God, has that production had quite the troubled history.
Been a long road for that one.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, let's get right into it. So with Christian Bale being cast, so this was an exclusive from Collider, I believe. And of course, to make things kind of like bigger than they were, they made it appear to a lot of people that they were kind of teasing maybe he was added as Beta Ray Bill, even though I'm pretty sure, if anything, it's like a one-off role. I don't see him being a part of a multi-picture, potentially entire franchise defining character like Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah, I think there's zero chance that this is a multi-film deal. I think there's zero chance that there's any kind of spin-off with his character or anything moving forward into the bigger MCU. I mean, this is Christian Bale we're talking about. He Cheney last year. He's got Ford versus Ferrari this year. This guy's Oscar, huge Oscar buzz consistently every year. He had his bout with the superhero movies. He had his time with the big franchise, and he did the 3 movies. Granted, they were Nolan movies. They weren't exactly a run-of-the-mill average comic book movie, but the big draw apparently was Taika, and Taika had a good role for him, and that's why they've wanted to work together for a while. I think he was rumored to be in the soccer movie that Fassbender ended up getting. I think there was some connection there, and they wanted to work together, and he found a role for him in Thor. I do think there's the possibility that he plays the villain, whether that be Dario Agger or any of the other mystical creatures that they want to throw out there. But I think there's very small chance that this is a bigger role, and especially Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm like 95% confident the role he's playing is Dario Agger, aka the Minotaur. Just because in the comics, especially the more recent Thor comics regarding Jane Foster as Thor and the Unworthy Thor period, and even more recently with the current Hulk storyline that they're doing, it features pretty heavily Roxxon and their CEO, who ends up being the Minotaur. So I think it actually fits pretty well. The only thing that catches me off guard about it is the fact that if he's playing the villain, that almost means they're not doing the storyline with Magog and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to adapt a straight storyline, and I know we'll get into that into the next topic. But Civil War and Infinity War, Endgame, all of those, they loosely took things from the books that they can work thematically, but it's difficult to go straight. And I know Jason Aaron's Thor run is very well regarded, and that's why Taika's taking inspiration from it, but. I much prefer the idea of him picking the villain that works and then finding the actor that works for whatever story he's looking to tell. Adhering to one straight story can cause problems, and definitely for comic purists. And this is its own interpretation. The MCU is its own world. So I'm fine with it being a different character and a different story. Roxxon has been in Marvel since Iron Man 3, and it was prominent in the Netflix shows. So. I think there's the connection there, and we'll just have that that little nugget that we got a couple times throughout things can become this much larger entity, and that's how the MCU works. So yeah, I mean Christian Bale, Christian Bale's Christian Bale, and I think he can do anything. And if he wants to do this role, that's what really gets me excited, because he's not the kind of guy to just jump into a comic book movie. He has no reason to. So if he's interested in this role, I think there's something juicy and prominent there for him to give a good performance in what it's looking to be a crazy movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, just one thing I was thinking of is, how are they going to do the whole Minotaur thing with this? Like, are they going to do it where it's like a pseudo Hulk kind of thing, where it's like temperament based? Are they going to do more magical creatures? Just because the Minotaur, I think, is magical. So, yeah, a lot of questions here, especially because the actor like Christian Bale, that's the last actor you would have expected, right? So,
I mean, right, but for any role, really. I mean, you toss out any Thor based role. I mean, it's a, if you told me a Norman Osborn or someone like that of that stature, sure, but the mysticism, it feels weird, but it also, like, if he wants to do it, I'm all for it, because he's an actor of that caliber. And Anthony Hopkins has been in these Thor movies. I mean, obviously he has the Shakespeare ties and all the larger than life kind of mystical stuff, but it's very interesting to me that Bale wanted this role, and I think Taika has a lot to do with that, and rightfully so. And I mean, it's crazy because we don't even know for sure. I mean, the biggest speculation is that it's Dario Agger, but we don't know 100%. I think that's a good bet though, given the Jane Foster tie. But well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that.
yeah, because another thing I was curious about is if this is the way they're going, are they going to, like, obviously Jane Foster is going to be the quote unquote mighty Thor, but are they going to adapt the, I guess, Hemsworth Thor into an MCU adaptation of War Thor? And for those who have no idea what I'm referencing here, in the Mighty Thor storyline, eventually the ultimate Thor hammer falls down on Earth 616, the mainstream comic book Earth, and Volstagg picks it up. And, the hammer is described as having the rage of a dying universe, a dying multiverse, because it kind of connects to the whole Secret War storyline they did a while back. But anyways, when he picks it up, it turns him into a version of Thor, but a much more angry, vengeful, just violent Thor. So it's an interesting storyline. I'm not doing it justice really how I'm describing it, because I'm trying to leave out crucial plot points so people don't feel like I spoiled the entire thing for them. Yet, at the same time, it'd be a really interesting way of going about Chris Hemsworth Thor, even though it wouldn't make sense because he doesn't really have the temperament or demeanor currently for that. I don't think his character progression's kind of taken him away from being that brash and everything. But it'd be interesting to see what they do with them.
No, but I mean, when he started out, though, originally he didn't have the sense of humor that he has now. So, they take it in these different directions. And, I mean, Hemsworth is obviously keen to keep playing the character, at least for this one more movie, if not, further movies, but more so than, his co-stars, Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. They were ready to move on, move on with their lives. But, I mean, Hemsworth has just hit his stride as Thor in the last, 3 movies. So, if he's down to keep playing it, I think taking it in another direction would be even that more interesting. And we can get some solo movies with Natalie Portman. And I think that would continue a very, a franchise on the rise.
Yeah, I pretty wholeheartedly believe this is a one-off, at least for Natalie and like Christian Bale.
I would say that it's completely possible that Natalie comes back in some team up movie. If she's willing to come back for this. I mean, obviously, I think, again, Taika has something to do with that, but I think there's something to be said if they get a team up movie down the line, Avengers 5 or whatever it may be called, if they want to have her come in as Thor. I don't think she'd be completely against it.
We'll see how they write it, because they could write a whole storyline in this movie where she eventually dies from her cancer, or they can write it rather open-ended. So maybe she gives up the mantle to just focus on her treatments and stuff like that, and depending on the reception of this movie, they could always return to her becoming Thor again. I think it's really going to probably be open-ended, because if they really enjoy the experience filming and the movie is very well received, which Taika's track record seems to indicate likely the movie will be, I think Marvel's going to want to do another one, especially since they've already said they want to push more female characters, minority characters, LGBT characters. So this would be an easy, checking of the box, so to speak, for them, especially Thor is a popular character, and I don't think Chris Hemsworth would mind playing second fiddle. Honestly, I think he would enjoy it. He'd be kind of coasting.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have an issue at all. It'd also be another place to have, Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, who is a, fan favorite character and has been for a long time. And I think, seeing more of her would be an added bonus to that.
No, I agree 100%. But I guess before we wrap up this topic, just Christian Bale, which character do you think he's going to play and why?
If I had to put my money down, I would say Dario Agger. I mean, looking at everything this past week, I mean, people have been going on and on about it. I think it fits well, and I think it fits his kind of character. Like I mentioned earlier, the Norman Osborn kind of thing. It's not this, it's not, apples to apples. It's more apples to oranges. But he's that kind of demeanor. A big businessman. I mean, anyone who's seen American Psycho knows he can play the pricky kind of business guy. And he could fit that role, and then he could also, I think, fit this larger than life monster role via the VFX. He's that good of an actor, so that's where my head would lean.
For me as well, I'd put my money heavily on Dario just because that's a character he can both play as Christian Bale and then also, I guess, voice as a CGI creature. And the reason why I say that for sure is because I think one thing Taika wants to do is get into a lot more of the magical aspects of the character and that, I guess, mythology, if you want to call it that, which will be pretty vital, not only for explaining the Minotaur and how Christian Bale's character will be able to turn into him and turn back into, I guess, a more human form, but also that magical aspect, especially for transformation, will be a theme that will be needed for Natalie Portman's character of Jane Foster turning into Thor and vice versa. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they connect those two in that aspect. Like, that's one reason I really think they're going to do Dario, because having the magical transformation will be a good mirror reflection almost to Jane Foster's Thor and that whole transformation from her, I guess, human self. But also at the same time, I just want to throw in there, I wouldn't be surprised if the Hulk makes another appearance.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad call at all. I think if Thor does, end up losing the hammer, and Jane, obviously, from the get-go, I doubt she'll have, the complete control of her abilities, having not done it before. I think having someone who would be able to go toe-to-toe with the Minotaur, earlier in the movie, middle of the movie kind of thing, before Jane, fully realizes her powers in the third act, as one could assume, given this, the type of superhero story guideline. Yeah, I wouldn't think that's a bad call either. I mean, there hasn't been much place for Ruffalo's Hulk anywhere. I mean, She-Hulk's obviously a possibility, but that's far, it's down the line. So we've yet to know. And thinking about it, this movie's obviously going to take Thor back to Earth, because you'd have to assume that Jane is on Earth, for her the treatments and everything. So that's where Ruffalo is, or Ruffalo's a bit where Banner is. So. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was also just thinking about the character as well. Like, he could be a very easy target to have as a character, kind of supervising Jane's treatments due to him specializing in radiation. But also at the same time, when I was talking about Dario and Jane both being two characters in this movie in particular who will be undergoing magical transformations of their own, assuming Dario's in the film, I think the Hulk would be another awesome character to feature in it, because his transformation more sciencey, not really magical, even though I guess you could argue it's magical in its own way. So I think it'd be interesting to have three characters like that have such drastic transformations in a superhuman, supernatural way, all in the same movie. Just like, what would that be like, especially from the Hulk's point of view, since he went from viewing one side as basically a new identity, a monster, this and that, to coming to terms with it and becoming one. So I'd be curious to see if how they do that, I guess, with regards to the story. And plus, I think Taika loves working with Mark Ruffalo from their behind the scenes stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way, since the character is still around. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. Jackson, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate you being available.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah. So I guess, Jackson, you want to let everybody know where they could find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JacksonHayes67 and follow the page at Full Circle Cine. That's CINE. And yeah, we'll just check us out and listen to the pod and continue to listen to the pods and support H&E and all that.
Yeah. And for anyone else interested, leave comments in the description with hashtag HNEpod. Also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you're probably listening to this as different segments. But if you're listening to it on other platforms, let us know what platforms you're listening to it on, whether it's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever it may be you're listening to it, let us know. And with all that said and done, Jackson, again, thank you for being a part of this episode, and we'll see you guys later.